Hello, everybody, and welcome to Virtual Vines. Tonight, we have an amazing show in store for you. Victor Ordonez from Jorge Ordonez Selections joining us. So we're going to talk about Spanish wine tonight. It's TC Fraizer from Tryon, Dan Mackey from the Loaded Grape. So excited to have you on the show, tuning in, whether it be Facebook Live or whether it'll be through YouTube now. Because we got YouTube Live. We're on YouTube Live.
So. A couple episodes on YouTube, but I think episode, 30 now? I mean, God, I don't know if there's some shows that last that long in syndication. I mean, I think the first original run on Star Trek was, maybe 30 episodes? So
Yeah.
I mean, hey, we're shooting for the stars here, really, guys.
We are getting there. It's so much going on. Everybody's logging in. Now, I want to share something really quick with you. One of the things we can do now, because we're using this platform called StreamYard to show the show, if you want to be able to, hold on, I'm going to redo this. I'm going to show you this little screenshot. That's really cool. So and then as your comments come in, we'll be able to see them, and questions and stuff like that today for Victor. We can post them up on the screen and everything.
You got the banners and the price points.
Banners, price points, and
stuff like that.
So
the Zoom's call, it's like the old school like Mortal Kombat. I have 30 characters to choose from. It's just like I don't know what to do, right? So
So if you want to take your time right here to do that, this is gonna be a great show. So excited! I know there's some folks already here. So awesome. Victor just tuned in. So let's get Victor up on screen and welcome him to the show. Victor, welcome.
How's it going, guys?
Victor, what's up, man?
What's going on?
How are you doing? Good evening.
Good, man.
We are excited about having you on. I know this is a different platform for you for Zoom. So I know when you're going to share something, you're going to have to add a second screen up, just so you know that. That's how you share the screen. So we might want to practice while we're doing some introductions here. Victor is the sales manager for Jorge Ordonez Selections, and I know that's going to be that's a lot of territory too for him.
Well, if I can just say this too, of our company, we have literally thousands of brands around the world, and we have several brand managers just to try to control that. The vice president of our company, like literally the third employee who kind of delegates most of the brand responsibilities, she basically does one portfolio to herself and has basically since day one, and that's the Jorge Ordonez. Really how important it is, and really how kind of trend setting, I think, the book and everything it has to offer. And so we're just honored to have Victor on, and really honored to be able to sell their wines in North Carolina. Really, really great stuff. So, and
we have an amazing lineup of 6 wines tonight that we handcrafted with Victor to talk about. And I'll tell you what, we didn't talk about order, but I figured we'd start with the bubbles, if that's okay with you, Victor.
That's good with me, man, for sure.
All right, so this is not a stranger to the Loaded Grape. We have had this wine several times in tastings, whether it been just straight sparkling tastings that we've done or just straight cava tastings. But the Galita Brut Grand Reserva Cava is probably one of the highest sellers in the cava category for us. Do you want to start off? Tell us a little bit about this.
Absolutely. So a little bit about our company first. My father Jorge started the company in 1987. He was one of the pioneering importers of Spanish wine. Today the portfolio is 22 wineries, 6 of which are wineries that we actually own and operate ourselves. And so a few of the wines that we're going to taste tonight, including the Baton, which I'm enjoying here, are wines that we actually produce. And one of the producers that we represent as a family, as agents, that we've represented for almost 28 years now, is Vinzel Sepp. And Vinzel Sepp is the producer of this wine, Galita Brut Grand Reserva. And we'll share my screen here real quick.
Yeah, and I was going to say why Victor does that, and I think, and he'll probably touch on it as well. But we always talk about bubbles. People always mention things like champagne, right? And so 85% of champagne is non-vintage. So what I love about this wine, in addition to being great and everything that Victor's about to tell you, is that we get a vintage bottle of sparkling wine from producers centuries old for the price point, just over delivers. But anyway,
for some reason,
that's always one of the things I admire about this wine.
No, yeah, and so it's for some reason I'm struggling to share my screen. I'll keep troubleshooting, but while I'm doing that, I'll just talk about it. Vinzel Sepp, like I said, one of the first producers that we've ever represented. This is a family that has been growing grapes and farming vineyards in Penedès, which is one of the sub-appellations of Catalonia. Catalonia is obviously the region where Barcelona is located in the northeast. Penedès is the home for the production of cava, and cava is Spain's method champenoise, so it's traditional method sparkling wine category. And most of cava is actually produced in Penedès. Penedès is the main area of production. Cava is a category that I think, for a lot of sparkling wine consumers represents a lot of really good value. You can get some really, really good wines for not that much money, but it can also represent, honestly, some really bad value. There's a lot of really mass-produced wines out there, and what sets this producer apart is that they were basically the founding pioneer of organic and biodynamically grown cavas. So all of the vineyards are farmed organically. They have been since day one. This producer was founded in 1984 when the four families who are partners came together to found the estate, and they basically all donated their own family vineyards to the project. And they've been organically farmed since then, since the early 90s. Farming biodynamically, which includes a lot of more natural processes into the viticulture. And the winemaking is very kind of non-interventionalist. It's very hands-off, just like all the best producers in Champagne. The wines are made with first press and free-run juice. And what that means is that basically, without getting too technical, they don't mash the hell out of the grapes in order to get every single last drop of juice. They get basically the softest and the most elegant free-run juice out of those grapes. And ultimately what you get is a wine that I think has much more elegance. It doesn't have that kind of textbook bitterness that you get with a lot of cavas on the finish. It's super elegant. Maite, who's CEO, winemaker, head of marketing, head of sales, she's basically does everything for the winery. She's a really big fan of this kind of like lighter, fresher styled sparkling wines. So the wines have a lot of great acidity. And this one that we're drinking is a Brut Gran Reserva. And so Brut means that it's under 12 grams per liter of residual sugar. This could be called an extra Brut, which means it actually only has 6 grams per liter of residual sugar. So it's low in sugar, so it's not going to give you a killer hangover. And it's a Gran Reserva, which means that it needs to spend a minimum of 36 months in bottle. The cool part about this is that it spends 48. So this one actually spends 48 months in bottle. And so for less than 20 bucks, I don't know the exact price that you guys are selling it for, but probably less than 20 bucks. 20 bucks. So for 20 bucks, you're getting a wine that was aged for 4 years in the bottle. I can't hear you guys. You guys are muted.
Sorry, I muted it.
He talks too much.
Sorry, we had to mute ourselves trying to.
Danny.
Yeah, just under $20 if you're in our wine club. So when you go to loadedgrape.com to put in your order, all you have to do is put in what level club you are in the checkout, and you'll get that club level discount. So some folks are going to be getting this at a steal of a price. So
awesome.
Yeah, nice and creamy. Rich. Again, you kind of close your eyes. I think of not quite as like bready or yeasty, but definitely that kind of smooth. And as you mentioned, you hit the nail on the head, Victor, when you said it's not that super acidic, super tart, like kind of gives you lockjaw in the first few sips. This is just from front to back, just a very smooth, seamless, style cava. And for some of you that know and some of you that may, there are producers, even the quote unquote small producers, that are making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cases. And if I'm not mistaken, Victor, these guys are a fraction of compared to I don't want to get sued tonight, so I want to name names, but I think we all know the big name cavas. So comparatively speaking, in terms of production versus other cavas, what would you consider this in terms of production level?
This specific wine is no more than 5,000 cases. Wow. And then
that's crazy. That's like in like 5 for cava. That's crazy.
No, I mean, literally. And so, and I mean, at this point, I mean, all the largest companies aren't even owned by Spaniards. They're owned by international beverage conglomerates. So it's a category that is in kind of a very challenging place because those large production wineries have really kind of driven prices down to the bottom. So like, oftentimes, I go around selling Yopard or selling Vinzelsep, which are the two producers we represent. And the conversation is always, well, like, if it isn't under $14.99, we can't work with it. And it's like, it's a shame because these are great grower family producers that are making some absolutely spectacular wines. So it's a bummer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is, like I said before, I know there's some folks watching that I know this is one of their favorite. Actually, before the show even started, I was told I want 2 bottles of the Cava before
That's
the show
awesome.
started.
Yeah.
So, we know how delicious this wine is. And what a great way to start off this night.
Definitely.
Yeah, very good. Well, like I said, I mean, this one, I mean, and again, as you mentioned, these growers that they work with, I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, I mean, some go back to, I mean, God, I mean, even like pre-Columbian, like, 1450s, right? I mean, so it's amazing the history even that you get at that price. So, I mean, I know,
I mean, this is
the whole film, this Cava, I know, but I just think the value, I mean, I know we have a few other over-deliver wines, but to me, guys, I mean, if there is a wine that over-delivers tonight, oh my God, this is it in space.
I mean, even if it didn't taste good, it's a wine that's 5 years old when you buy it, at least minimum. I mean, just think about the finances there don't even make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're drinking the 2014, so you're even got 6 years on it.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's fantastic.
For 20 or under.
Yeah.
For $20 or under, 6 years on the
only 5,000 cases. I mean, there's several producers out there that are making multi-million cases, still Spanish on. I mean, again, guys, this is something for you bubble heads out there. I mean, again, we're turning the corner on the holiday season, so this is definitely something that you want to, you don't want to cheap out, but you don't want to, blow the budget. This is something that you can certainly put in front of anybody in your group, guys, and be very proud that you've done so. And at the price point, you can buy 2 or 3 bottles because you're going to need it after they have it. So
yeah, you're definitely going to want to put that in the cart. You can go over to loadedgrape.com, and we lost Victor. We lost Victor. Don't worry, Victor will come back.
We'll give him a 2 back on there.
We'll give him 2 back on. But for $20 sale price tonight, you can go over to loadedgrape.com. If you're in our wine club, if you want to check out, you put in there you are.
So sorry, guys. My Chrome put out on me.
That's okay. That's all right. We're trying new software here, so there's always little bumps in the road. So there you go. Now you got it.
Baby.
There you go. See, what I could do then is I could do this, and look at that. There we go.
Perfect.
And I can take this down so everybody can see it. We can move on to our next wine.
And I'll do this as well. And we can talk about some Albarino.
Yes, we can. And I'm excited about this. If I'm not mistaken, that this was one of the your dad was one of the first was the first to bring this Albarino to the United States, to the market.
Yeah, Albarino is obviously, it's a variety that a lot of people recognize. I think it's probably the only Spanish white variety where you can kind of unanimously speak to consumers and people say, "Oh, I've heard of Albarino. I've had an Albarino." I don't think Verdejo's there yet. Obviously, white Rioja. People know Rioja, but people don't know that Rioja makes white wines. Certainly Godello's not there. Moscatel, Pedro Ximénez, these varieties are not as well recognized. And it's funny because Albarino is actually one of Spain's rarest white varieties. It's a variety that's indigenous to this northwestern corner and to this region right here called Rías Baixas. And Rías Baixas, as you can see, is actually 5 different sub-appellations split into one DO. And Albarino is indigenous to this area. It's a variety that was, like many other indigenous white varieties, was almost lost to the history books after phylloxera. But it's a grape variety that was almost forgotten about, even in Spain, in the late 1980s. And when Jorge came to the U.S., he built a very strong portfolio, small portfolio but strong portfolio of a few producers from established appellations at the time, which included, Rioja, Ribera del Duero, Alvear, which produces some of the best sherries in Spain. So more recognized categories. And one of the first things he started doing was traveling from region to region, looking for grape varieties that had not yet been discovered. And one of these grape varieties that he discovered in the late 1980s, and he started bringing in the early 1990s, was Albarino. And at the time, the nerdiest sommelier in Madrid maybe had heard once or twice about Albarino, but it was not well known at all. It wasn't served in restaurants in Madrid. And there was really only one producer vinifying Albarino for the commercial market, and that was a tiny little co-op called Martín Kodak's. And Martín Kodak's is actually now the largest co-op in Rías Baixas. At the time, they were making 5,000 cases, and now they make 600,000 cases. So Jorge brought this into New York, and Jorge, my dad, when he first presented samples of Martín Kodak's to his New York importer at the time, the New York importer said, "Get this crap out of here. You're never going to sell more than 100 cases of Albarino in the U.S. I'm not buying a case." Here we are 30 years later, and it's the #1 white variety in the U.S. Obviously, La Caña itself, the wine that we're tasting now or going through now, was not that wine. But La Caña is a winery that we founded. My dad founded in 2007. See pictures here on the screen. And it was a winery that we founded out of our love for this variety. I mean, I think the challenge that Albarino has is that the vast majority of the production is dominated by large co-op producers, right? It's big companies that are making a very kind of inexpensive commercial style of wines that are bottled under screw cap, wines that are sterile filtered and put through a centrifuge, and wines that are harvested in September and released in January without any aging, and wines that are good for the first couple months, but 12 months down the road are going to be dead as a doornail. And just like cheap, inexpensive rosé, they expect you to buy the wine, drink up, and move on to the next vintage. And so what we strove to do with Bodegas La Caña was to produce a more serious and a more authentic style of Albarino, and make wines that were serious enough to show respect to one of Spain's great heritage white varieties.
Yeah, I mean, God, well, I mean, so well said. Well, and what's so interesting too, if you want to touch on just briefly, Victor, and what I love about Spain, just the rich history. We talk about, 2500 BC and the Phoenicians and things like that, but just how sort of colloquialized it is. So in that part of Spain, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Galician part, you have this almost like Anglican, like bagpipes and things like that. And then, as well as a very historic religious destination, the Santiago de Compostela, I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation, but I think
yeah, absolutely,
yeah, exactly, and I think too, and one other point, if I could say too, is you think that region, I think if I'm not mistaken, eats more seafood per capita than any other Spanish region. So I think just all encapsulating. I mean, God, I want some oysters or some shrimp, I need some scallops, or there's some just some very interesting barnacle type stuff that you can only get off the coast of Portugal and Spain there. But yeah, I just if you want to talk a little bit about just that indigenous culture that's there.
Yeah, so speaking about the seafood, I mean, one of our vineyards is literally called La Playa because it's planted on a beach. So I mean, this, like you said, is basically the shellfish capital of Spain. Obviously, all over the Mediterranean coast, you have a tremendous wealth of seafood that's consumed as well. But in terms of shellfish, Galicia, and particularly this region of Galicia, is definitely the most important. And like you said, Rías Baixas, Galicia in general has a huge genetically the largest makeup is it's a Celtic race, originally. And which is why, you're walking down the street. I mean, you think of you're in Andalusia and you're walking around and people, dark, tan skin, dark hair. In Galicia, everyone's walking around as and 5'6". Everyone in Galicia is tall, red hair, curly beard. So it's definitely a very Celtic influenced culture. It's funny because my mom is actually first generation Irish. So both of my parents, my mom's side, are from Ireland, and when my mom and dad started dating, my dad tells a very funny story because my grandmother didn't like my dad at first, and my grandfather apparently went on this tirade about how they had to accept him because there was this historical connection between the British Isles and Ireland and Spain, because there was a lot of historical immigration down to the Iberian Peninsula from Ireland and from England. So there's definitely a huge connection there, and yeah, and I mean, Albarino and La Caña is one of our portfolio's most important white wines. It's one of the most well-known and recognized Albarinos in the U.S. And once again, kind of the thing that sets it apart most is the fact that it's not just a simple lemon, lime, high-acid porch pounder wine. It has those components.
He said it. He said it. It's a porch pounder. He said it. It was in vogue.
That was the secret. That's the
secret word right there.
So you can enjoy it in that fashion for sure, but it has weight, it has texture to enjoy with food. I mean, this is a wine. I think you probably drinking the 2019, but I mean, this is a wine that 2018, 2019. But this is the one that you can lay down for 5 years and it will gain complexity. It's not something that you have to consume early on in its evolution. You know, it does well after several years in bottles. So definitely one of our portfolio's most important wines. And I think a wine that kind of changes the idea of what Albarino can be for a lot of the American market.
And we have this marked down tonight from 23 down to 20. So a great deal price on that. And again, if they're in the wine club, you can get your wine club discounts when you check out on theloadedgrape.com. And we can also, if you're watching the show and you're not from North Carolina, or you are from further away, there you can add shipping at the end, and we'll ship it out to you as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to buy these wines tonight. And this one, by far, there's still some warm days left before the coldness of the fall gets in, and I think this would be one to enjoy on those kind of those Indian summer nights.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so, like I said too, I mean, because of the weight it has from aging, this for me is a great. I say poultry, but like if you think about this, is like there's a subsection of our wines in our portfolio. I think those are great Thanksgiving wines, and a lot of them are some of the richer whites that we have in the portfolio. And this falls into that perfectly, in my opinion. So
definitely.
Yeah. This is of the white wines that we've been drinking, this is probably now one of my favorites.
Oh man.
Put it up there.
Well, you love Albarino. I mean, again, as Victor says, it's something that's kind of out there now. It's not in the super obscure category, but there's certainly a swath of people out there that unfortunately only drink 3 or 4 white varietals only. But this is that white varietal, like Victor says, it has a little bit of weight, has a little bit of texture, nice floral, but without being too like flowery. You know what I mean? It's got that, but then stone fruit, peachy, apricot. And again, shellfish is a given, but just your favorite conversation. Pandora, Spotify, radio station. That's what I like with this one, right? So
delish.
I know, delish. Absolutely.
Delish. So you can go over to loadedgrape.com, put your order in that cart. Don't worry, you don't have to check out yet. You can the wife is texting people, so
Vanna
Vine's over there texting people, making noises.
Operators, Victor. We have operators standing
by. So go to a different station. Stuff like that. So. Text without me. All right. So let's move on. Where do you want to go do next, Victor?
We got the Sierra Cantiabro. We got the Mo Monastrell. What do you think?
Let's do Mo.
Let's do some Mo.
I like it. Like it.
Getting our Mo on a Monday.
That I would say probably when we first opened the shop, if we suggested a Monastrell, people would be like, "What? A what? You want?" Now we have people who love Monastrell, and I'm excited about this one.
So this is Monastrell's always been a super important category for our portfolio, and another variety that Jorge wasn't the first person to introduce to the U.S., but almost inarguably was basically the guy that created the entire value Monastrell category in the United States with a few very influential labels, single-handedly. And Mo is almost a brand new item to our portfolio. We just started bringing it in about a year ago, and for me, it's probably my favorite Monastrell that we've sold in my time at the company. And the reason for that is that Monastrell, backtracking a little bit, is a grape variety that is indigenous to this southeastern corner of Spain. And a lot of people call this the Levante because it's the eastern part of Spain and the sun rises in the east, so it's called the Levante. And levantar in Spanish means to rise or to come up. So it's the Levante because it's the eastern part of Spain, and that's where Monastrell is indigenous from originally. And Monastrell is also well known for its French name Mourvèdre. And Mourvèdre is called Mourvèdre because in the 1800s, cuttings of Monastrell were brought from the south of Spain to the south of France. And the port that those shippers used was a Spanish village called Murviedro. So the grapevine cuttings that came from Murviedro became Morvedra in the south of France. But anyways, because you're in the southeastern part of Spain, which I can show you pictures of here, to give you an idea of how dry this area is, this is where all of, like the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly films, the spaghetti westerns. The spaghetti westerns were literally filmed about an hour, 2 hours away from these vineyards. So anyone who's seen those videos gives you a good idea of how dry it is. It's like a desert wasteland, basically. In the summer here, it can regularly get up to 100, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So what you have is an area that, and a variety of Monastrell that's extremely well adapted to warm temperatures. In spite of that, many producers make this super ripe, super heavy, very alcoholic, very raisiny, plummy style of wine that's kind of like hard to drink more than one glass of. What I love about Mo is that it has kind of that rich fruit character, that texture, that ripe fruit that people are looking for, that plum, but it still has really good acidity and really good freshness, and it's easy to drink. You know what I mean? Like you can actually have more than one glass of this, and it's more balanced. And the reason for that is that these are vineyards that are all planted, as you can see, on this mountain range right behind us. This is called the Sierra Salinas, which is why the winery is also called Sierra Salinas. And so the winery and the vineyards are planted right at the foothills of these mountain ranges. Everything's head trained in these little bush vines. Everything's organically farmed. And because of the altitude and because of the organic farming, the grapes don't get so overripe, because these are vineyards planted at 650, 680, 700 meters above sea level. And if you look at Alicante on the map, which is the region where Mo comes from, Alicante is actually weird in that it's a DO, it's a region that's split into two subregions. And a lot of the more commercial monastrells come from either this area right by the sea or kind of this lowland area in front of Yecla and Jumilla. So like kind of like out further towards the coast. And because you're at lower altitude there, you get this really ripe, overdone style of monastrell. And here we have vineyards that it's more fruit character as opposed to pruny, kind of overripe character. So one of my favorite wines in the portfolio. This is done in all stainless steel, so it's really bright, really fresh, and the price on it is just stupid as well. It's an absolute steal for the quality.
Well, and I think that stainless steel is well done, Victor, because like you said, it's a big, brooding, late ripening grape that likes a lot of sunshine, really dark. So I mean, it doesn't need a lot of oak. I mean, and like you said, I mean, you're putting a lot of oak on it. I mean, to me, that's like, it's like cranking the guitar amp to 11. I mean, almost anybody sounds good a little bit if you strum it when it's that loud, but there's no nuance there, know? And I think with this, I think Victor hit the nail on the head. Acidity is like the last word you kind of think about when you think about big, heavy monastrells. This wine, when I first tried it, I mean, I almost puckered a little bit. I mean, this wine just like beautiful, streamlined, and like you said, you can actually have second, third glass. Like, I don't need a bone-in bottle.
Second, third bottle.
Well, I don't need a bone-in ribeye after every sip. I mean, this is just fantastic. I mean, super easy, super just like the finesse. I think is this wine, and I think that's with that stainless steel. I think when you mentioned that, it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, wait a minute, a lot of people out there looking, obviously a lot of reds see oak to some degree, whether it be neutral or used, but to see a red that sees no oak, that's not like super acidic or super just steely, that actually has some body and character. I mean, I think this is just, well done. And like I said, I think they can pass on the savings a little bit, because like I said, this price is just stupid good. I mean, stupid's not even a word. I mean, it's
there. It is.
Oh, look at that. 14. Oh my God.
Down to $14 before any club level discount counts.
So you guys you probably can get this down to circa $12 or something, guys. So if you're not putting 6 bottles of this in your cart, like I don't know what else to do for you there.
Yeah, this is the deal of the night on the wines there. And see, why is it every time we have any importer, they get like, they scringe a little bit every time I say the price. Even Victor was doing it there. He was like, "What are you doing,
man? What are you doing to me?"
He's like, "I know that's a good price."
Love that. And again, another tidbit. Victor, I got to say, I've been selling wines.
You can see the bottle too.
Did not know the story, the Port of Mourvedre. Learning stuff all the time. That's why we have people like Victor on, guys. Learning stuff. Love that.
Victor, I do have a question.
Yep.
Coming from our audience. John Dozier wants to know if the I don't know if you saw it on Facebook, the tank leak today.
I did see that.
Yeah, where the 50,000 gallons.
Days ago, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that going to have any effect on, is that one of your wineries? And then two, is that going to have an effect on pricing in the future?
No, I don't think it will, but it's unfortunate for sure. I feel bad for the guy that messed up, because finding a new job in this economy is going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. That's a pretty big mess up. It's unfortunate. That's a lot of cases.
That's quite a bit of wine.
But
that's collateral.
For you guys to get an idea, if we're driving through La Mancha, which is this kind of central area of Spain, La Mancha is Earth's bulk wine warehouse.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. So like the largest export client of Valdepeñas, which is a sub-appellation of La Mancha, every year is Bordeaux, because Bordeaux buys all of their must concentrate to increase the alcohol of their wines in La Mancha. Yeah. So one of those tanks is like a piece of crap for one of these large wineries, because you'll be driving by these wineries and, I'm in the car every day. He's like, oh yeah, that winery makes 30 million liters of wine a year. That winery makes 25 million liters of wine a year. That winery makes 100 million liters of wine a year. It's unbelievable. The size of some of these wineries is unbelievable. So like one 50,000 liter tank, that's nothing. You know what I mean? That's like the small special cuvee tank.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, John. There's your answer. Probably will just be a blip on that guy's job resume, and for the rest of the wine world, we'll still be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like you said, La Mancha, I think some of you out there watching, it's kind of like Central Coast, where a lot of the bulk wines there, but even California, 500,000 acres compared to 2.5 million in Spain. And Spain is, Victor, correct me if I'm wrong, about the size of Texas. So just to quantify that for folks out there, we have basically the size of Texas that produces more than California, which is really North America when you think about it. That's pretty much North America's, and that's just that country. And if I'm not mistaken, Iran, AIREN, is the most widely planted, most cultivated grape no one knows about, and it comes from Spain, if I'm not mistaken, right, Victor?
Yeah, that's correct. Iran is it's a neutral, simple white grape variety. Not even used to make table wine. It's used to make for distillation. So they make really cheap, bulk wines, and they distill them, and a lot of that's used to fortify sherry, and then for other purposes as well. So it's one of my pen just went flying. It's one of my bones to pick with sherry, because traditionally a lot of bodegas distilled their own spirits to fortify their wines. And now a lot of sherry producers, the more commercial ones, just buy bulk alcohol. They just buy alcohol in bulk, which is obviously not quite as authentic as distilling your own spirits, but it is what it is. So.
Well, and plus, growing great stuff and throwing bulk stuff at it. And I know we're not doing the Avalar tonight, but one of the things we talked about a few shows ago was the PX, the Casa de Solara. And I was like, hey guys, the PX actually gets ripe enough where they don't have to add anything to that. So for those of you out there, I know we're not doing sherry tonight, but for those, Avalar, we'll talk maybe a little bit at the end of the show, but guys, that Casa de Solara was fantastic. That PX, as he was mentioning, so there's no bulk distillates in that one right there. That's a true deformed winery from the imports that, like you said, family owned, just honest, sincere, true wines from where they're from, I think. So.
And Victor, before we go on, I know you're a foodie. I know you like to cook, and especially so. What is your dish of choice when drinking with some of these wines?
Actually, I'll do a shameless plug for a good friend of mine, Flannery Beef. Its screen share function is really good, actually. So this is where we buy all our beef, and for us, it's the best butcher in the U.S. And it was introduced to us by an MS named Sarah Floyd, who's based out in California, who used to work for us many years ago. And they actually do this special cut ribeye that's called the Jorge cut rib steak, and it's named after my dad. And this is it right here. And it's a ribeye that's cut from the chuck end of the beef. And I'm definitely not a beef expert, so if I misstep anywhere, don't crucify me here. But it's a ribeye that's cut, I think, a little more closer to the front of the cow, which is how they cut them in Spain. And so that's where it came from, because my dad got introduced to this butcher and said, you have some really good beef, but I want you to cut my ribeyes this way, because this is how they do it in Spain. And so they cut it from closer to the front of the cow, and then he cuts it 4 fingers thick. So it's a 3 or 4 inch thick steak, and that's it's pretty simple. But cooking that is you throw it on the grill and you do whatever you like to do with your ribeyes on the grill. I like to do it over indirect heat for like 45 minutes to an hour, and it just gets super tender. But that to me is the thing that I'm digging these days. I love making paella, and I have some pho going downstairs right now. Some pho that I made with the bones from the leftover steaks that we had this weekend. So,
man.
Oh man!
I know he's only like 4 or 5, 800 miles away from North Carolina, but I'm coming up.
We're coming. I'm coming.
Hey, plane tickets are cheap these days, so
yeah, I can book like right now and be on the plane like early flight tomorrow, and I'm good. Right?
$59.99, like insurance, first class.
Yeah, get up to Logan. Yeah, pick me up at Logan tomorrow, right?
Yes. Have one of those steaks ready.
Sure.
All right. Where do you want to go on the next wine?
You want to do the Sierra Cantabria next?
Yeah, Sierra Cantabria. Yeah.
Cantabria. Sorry, that's. I speak 2 languages, English and bad English. I'm more proficient in the latter. He's learning that as we go on. So,
actually, this past weekend, I was down in Florida at Disney, and we were at Wine Bar George.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw someone. Was that you posting that?
Yeah, I was posting that.
That was awesome.
With the Triton.
Yeah, with the tone. Yeah.
I can't say it properly. I get yelled at.
Oh my God. That is, I mean, talk about one of the best values from Toro on the map. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I checked today. I think I have like a couple cases. I know we're not doing the prices. It's going to be a little bit cheaper than some of the, guys, if you want some of the that wine, oh my God, that is just
it is excellent. It is excellent.
And that place in Orlando, another shameless plug for another one of my friends, George Miliotis, who's an MS that, has known my dad for 25, 30 years. He ran the beverage program at Darden, which is the company that owns Capitol Grill and Olive Garden, Longhorn Steakhouse, Yard House, the whole 9 yards. He started seasons.
Wow.
Wine bar at Disney Springs. It's the most unbelievable place on planet Earth. Like 100 wines by the glass. You can drink like 1, 3, 5 ounce pours of all these legendary wines from Coravin. You can also just have, if you want mac and cheese balls and a glass of sangria, you can do that too. It's amazing.
Yeah, I will tell you, having twice done the blind tasting with George, where you taste like a master somm. If you haven't done that, tell George to do that with you next time you're down there, because it is a lot of fun.
He's a trickster.
He'll get you. And you think, I'm like, man, I drink a lot of wine, and that is incredible. And I always learn one little more tidbit on kind of like the sneaky way of understanding what wine it is. Because he'll go, well, we knocked all these out because of this, and it smells like this, so it has to be that. And it's like, oh man, that's incredible. So
he's also with all the NBA players down there. I think he's also acting as a so-called wine concierge for a lot of the players who are down there. I know he has he's been texting players who are like, hey George, like I'm having dinner with LeBron and Carmelo tonight. Like, can you bring me special?
Bring over tonight for your house Chardonnay?
Over like a half hour. Can you bring me a bottle of whatever? So without saying too much, I know that he's been dabbling with a little bit of that too, which is pretty funny. So, anyway,
we love George, so you can plug away.
Sierra Cantabria for me, obviously we produce a lot of wine as well, which are all really special to me. But for out of all the wineries we represent, Sierra Cantabria for me is one of our top relationships, one of the most important families that we represent. It's a family that we've represented in the U.S. since 1989, which makes it the oldest producer that we represent in our portfolio, because the first 2 years my dad represented a winery that ended up going bankrupt. So Sierra Cantabria is the longest running member of the Ordonez portfolio here in the U.S. And they're one of the most respected and important producers in this region right here, called Rioja. And Rioja is a region that most of you people will be familiar with. It's by far Spain's most well-known and respected, I was going to say red wine appellation, but their white wines are gaining a lot of fame these days too. And it's a region that came to fame. It's always produced fantastic wines, but like many other regions of Europe, had more of a monastic tradition of producing wine for many years, until the mid 1800s, when phylloxera, which is that grape louse that attacks grapevine roots that swept through Europe in the late 1800s. When that struck France, Bordeaux was absolutely devastated. And so Bordeaux's response, in order to not just have its market totally dry up, was to go south to the appellations Rioja and Navarra, which are two appellations that border each other, make wine in these areas, teach the locals how to age wine in barrel like they were doing it in Bordeaux, put the wine in big barrels in the back of trains, and ship it back up to Bordeaux. And so that's how they responded, and that's how they filled their cellars and their bottles with wine, which then they fraudulently subsequently sold to their customers as Bordeaux. But what that started in Rioja was, this transition of, and this is an interesting transition because Spain has just as rich a history of growing grapes and making wine as any country in Europe, if not richer. What it lacks, however, is what I always call, making wine for a market, right? It's like many of these regions of Spain are producing and growing, myriad grape varieties and making fantastic wines on a local level, on a monastic level, but very few regions of Spain have a rich history of making wine for commercial consumption, to be sold at a restaurant, sold in a wine shop, or in a wine trade, if that makes sense. And so Rioja has one of the richest histories from that point of view, because the Bordelais came down and showed the local growers how to make wines in this style. And that basically started a rich history. And today, Sierra Cantabria is a winery that's founded in 1953. But the family's been growing grapes in this northwestern part of Rioja, in this town called San Vicente de la Sonsierra. San Vicente is one of the most respected sub-appellations or sub-regions, villages in Rioja. It's so respected that Vega Sicilia, which is one of the most famous and wealthiest wineries in Spain, when they wanted to make a winery in Rioja, they came to San Vicente. And obviously those guys can basically go wherever the hell they want. So
charge whatever they want.
The Aguirre family is most famous, however, for being kind of like a vineyard-focused producer. So even though they obviously make lots of fantastic wine, they're calling vineyard, most of which come from this town called San Vicente. And the crianza that we're drinking is one of their entry-level wines. The fact that it's called a crianza means that it's aged for a minimum of 12 months in barrel. This one's aged for 14 and a year in bottle. But what differentiates this crianza from other crianzas is that this is a crianza that all comes from this one village of San Vicente. And that's very unique because crianza is normally a very commercial category that might see a blend of 4 different grape varieties, 50 different vineyard sites, and 15 different villages. And what that does is it can make a great wine, but it's not a wine that speaks of one specific place, if that makes sense. And this crianza is a terroir-driven village designation in the Burgundy classification, crianza, that speaks of the Tempranillo from San Vicente de la Sonsierra. And so for me, it's one of the best values in our portfolio because we've, at a tasting that we did with Thomas Matthews from Wine Spectator in November, we tasted a crianza going back to 1978, and the wine was fantastic. And that's not something that you're going to get from any old crianza that you pick up from your local grocery store off the shelf for $11.99 at all.
Yeah.
And so this is not the cheapest crianza in the world, but I challenge anyone out there to find me a better crianza qualitatively than Sierra Cantabria, simply because at that level of price point, at that level of production, no one is paying as much attention to their vineyards. And the other thing I forgot to mention is that everything's estate owned. So Rioja is a region that, it's 60,000 hectares split between 17,000 different growers, which means that the average land holding or the average land ownership is like 3 hectares, 4 hectares. It's like just like Burgundy or Champagne. And so to make any meaningful quantity of wine, producers have to buy grapes. And at this level of production, Sierra Cantabria is one of the only producers that I know of that actually owns 100% of the vineyards that they use to produce their wines. So it's a very serious producer. It's a winery that if you go to Spain and you go into any Michelin star restaurant in Madrid, you'll have 2 or 3 wines by the glass, 6 or 7 wines by the bottle on the list. It's a very, very respected producer, very, very serious, very high level qualitatively. They don't really care about anything else besides producing great wine. They're not really concerned with the intricacies of marketing the wines or trying to get certain promotions or hitting certain price points. All they care about is growing fantastic fruit and turning that into delicious wine that shows the character of the place. So, and I really respect that because that's different than a lot of producers from Rioja, which, many of which just, are very commercial minded. So
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, I'm trying not to get drunk tonight, but I'd be pouring more of this in my glass. It is so good, and you're right for the price point. It's a little bit higher than what you would normally pay for a Carenza. We would have it at the show normally at 23, on sale tonight for 21. Of course, you get wine club discounts on top of that. You can go to loadedgrape.com to do that. Put it in your cart. We have a couple more wines to talk about. Don't press check out yet because you definitely want to have an opportunity to put a couple of these other ones in the cart before we finish up. But this Carenza, like,
well, one thing I say about this Crianza, I mean, 2015, guys. I mean, so this is, I mean, as Victor was alluding to, I mean, Crianza is a style that normally is drank soon. The Reserva, certainly Grand Reserva, is the one that's the special occasion wine. I mean, he mentioned a wine 40 years old from a wine that you quote unquote should drink tomorrow, right? And from this producer. And so, guys, this is 2015. I won't name names, but there are $100+ Cabernets from Napa Valley I'm selling right now that are 2017 vintage. It's too soon, but they won't tell you it's too soon. So the one thing I've always admired about Spain is even though they've had more, let's just say, acres under vine than say France and Italy, they produce less wine because they covet old vines, right? And so to me, which one obviously makes lower yields, but also they hold their wine and release it upon when it's ready. I mean, I always think, as a winemaker told me one time, he's like, I think the English drink their wine too old, the French drink their wine too young, and the Americans, well, you drink your wine just right because you don't know any better. And I'm like, well, okay, I can kind of go with that. But this is a wine, guys, for those of you out there that are going, okay, aging, that means from the loaded grape to my car to my glass. And I get it. I mean, in a world where we need information now, aging wine is a hard thing. But 2015, guys, for a wine, again, at this price point, family-owned vineyards, as Victor said, this already has 5 going on 6 years. I mean, it's hard to believe 2020 is almost over. They've aged the wine for you, and they say the wine's ready. So again, as Victor says, if you want to get 6 bottles and put 2, 3 down in the cellar, because you're going to have a few now, it will certainly age. But as Danny said, I mean, this bottle's probably going to. There's a lot more of the level of the wine's going to get gone. I think of this wine tonight. What do you think?
Yeah. This is I know how much I love the Veilletan, and we're not there yet.
And the other two.
And the other two. I just know that had we not have a couple more wines to go, I would probably be filling up the glass because again,
holidays are coming up.
Holidays are coming up.
The last 2 wines, I think, for red wines, guys, these are the wines. If you're not putting 4 to 6 bottles in your cart, you're really going to miss out. Of course, the next 2 we're going to talk about, depending on your wine budget. I mean, hey, get 6 bottles of that, and I'm coming over. Let me know who you are. Yeah. But certainly these are wines too that hey, if you want to hold on just for you, put it in the guest room and don't tell anybody but a few people, you can certainly think you're not skimping out on the Mo Monastrell or this beautiful Crianza. Absolutely amazing. So anyway, Victor, thank you so much for talking about that one. Any last words you can say about that one? You can, but
like I said, obviously you can drink it now, but it's a wine that I mean, I've literally had 40-year-old bottles of this wine, and the wine ages beautifully. It's super elegant. For those of you that care about press, it's extremely highly rated as well. For $23, $21 bottle of wine, 92 points, 93 points. So it's a steal for sure.
Absolutely. Wow. So yeah, two. Okay, so now we're getting into the big dogs, the big guns. I mean, hey, we're putting the leather interior, fully loaded. I mean, hey, the special rarefied air. I mean, kind of special wines of the Jorge Ordonez. Victor, which way should we go? Should we go San Vicente or Veilletan next? What do you think?
Traditionally, I would do the Veilletan first, but since we just spoke Sierra Cantabria and it's
on Rio Harbor,
San Vicente.
Okay, let's do it.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. We got you. Oh, that smells so good. Another. Oh,
I think we're back.
Yep, you're there.
Awesome. So I'm going to play this video. And I was talking a little bit about the history of the Aguirre family, and it's really cool that we just tasted the Sierra Cantabria Crianza because like I said, the Aguirre family started this winery in 1953. But at the time, and they've been growing grapes since the 1870s. So primarily they were growers, but they really started producing wine and making wine in 1953. And in the late 1980s, when Marcos and Miguel, who were Guillermo, their father's sons, joined the winery, they said, we have to open the export market, but enough of this young wine, carbonic maceration, local market crap. We have to make a top quality wine in the French philosophy of selecting our best single vineyard, making a Grand Cru style single vineyard wine, aging it in one cellar by itself, and expressing the terroir of that one single vineyard. And so at the time, the cellar Señorío de San Vicente was created. And this is a winery that was first created in 1989. The first release was in 1991. And it was from a very spectacular single vineyard called La Canoca, which is, like I said, the family's most important single vineyard that was planted in 1984, with a very unique clone of Tempranillo called Tempranillo Peludo. And peludo in Spanish means hairy. So this is basically hairy Tempranillo. And the reason it's called hairy Tempranillo is because it's an old clone of Tempranillo where the underside of the leaves have a fuzziness to them, which the leaves don't do anything for the wine, but because it's a very old clone of Tempranillo, it has extremely small clusters of extremely small berries, if that makes sense. And so if you think about it, all the flavor compounds, all the tannin compounds, all of the color compounds, those are chemical compounds that exist in the skins, not the pulp. And as a result, when you have smaller berries, you have more concentrated wines, more power. And because this was from one of their more spectacular single vineyards, the wine also showed a tremendous terroir, a tremendous character of minerality. And they wanted to buck the trend that had kind of, captured Rioja until this point, which was wines that were that showed, the expression of the cellar, wines that were aged for an extremely long time, wines that blended multiple different varieties, multiple different vineyard sites that really didn't express the vineyard site, if that makes sense. And so they aged the wine in new oak. They aged the wine in the first year 90% American and 10% French oak. And by the end of the 1990s, they were aging it in 90% French and 10% American. This is not Rioja. What are you guys doing selling $30 bottles of wine in Rioja that are current vintage? And everyone told them crazy, but they ultimately started a complete trend in Rioja, which was a move away from that extremely old school style of extended aging and blending of multiple vineyard sites into what is fashionable today in Rioja, which is, vineyard designated wines, small vignerons producing a couple thousand cases of very terroir specific wines. And that trend was started 30 years ago with San Vicente. One of the best moments for me in my career was when we took a group of customers to Spain a few years ago. And on the last night at a restaurant, at a nice Michelin star restaurant in Madrid, we're with, we order a couple bottles of San Vicente off the menu. And the sommelier comes in and he says, wow, great job ordering. This is one of the most important This is one of the most important wines in the last 30 years of Rioja. For me, it's one of the top 5 wines from the appellation in front of a bunch of our most important customers in New York. And I was like, let's go.
And you pass them like a 20 euro under the table right here.
Yeah,
So, hey, thanks, man.
here's your commission.
Yeah, right.
But no, but it really is true because it really started this whole new category of vineyard-specific wines from Rioja. If you really want to dumb it down, I think there's a very base level where we can say, for people that love New World wines, that like fruit in their wines, that like a more plush texture, this is a fantastic gateway drug into Rioja because it has all of that character that you expect from a New World wine, but it has the acidity, it has the minerality, and it has the character of an Old World wine. On top of that, I think, for people that love good Bordeaux, I think this is a perfect wine as well because it has a lot of those components with fruit and structure, but minerality and acidity, a toasty quality from the oak as well. But once again, one of the most
You froze a little bit. You there, Victor? Did we lose you?
You guys hear me?
Yeah, now we got you. We got you back.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. We got you back.
Awesome. No, yeah, I was just saying that it's one of the most balanced wines in our portfolio, and one of the most able as well.
Yeah, this I'm gonna tell you right now.
Well, it's a very modern style, as Victor said. If I can harken back on that, a very modern style. And one thing I think what Victor was trying to mention, for those of you watching and have had a little bit of Spanish wine, to me, Rioja compared to say like Ribera del Duero or Toro is more Burgundian. I mean, we're Tempranillo grape, but it has more of this, as Victor was saying, more of this classic European quality, which is great, but it kind of throws maybe some people off, right? As this one, and I think as Victor mentioned, this is the first single vineyard. I mean, this is like site specific where they're not just blending in to do a reserve, a Grand Reserve. I mean, this is like, hey, we're singling in on kind of what what people are asking for now is, hey, site specific, terroir driven wines in a modern approach. So again, as you can see from the pictures he's showing there, the more the classic barriques or even demi-muse barrels versus these huge kind of footers. That would be, probably indicative of more of the old school. So you get more, fleshiness, a little bit ripeness. And again, as Victor mentioned, he said Bordeaux. I literally, as you said that, Victor, and I smelled it, I was thinking like a Pauillac, like a nice, like just rich, just dark, rich Pauillac on there. I mean, this is just, it had that kind of classic quality. I don't know if you just led the witness there, but it really did give me a nice reminiscence of that, not just, again, there's a swath of just Bordeaux Superiors out there. I'm talking, as Victor said, that when's the last time you've had a nice quality Bordeaux? Same thing with this wine, right? I mean, this is just, fantastic.
High quality. Let's do the reveal on this one. Price point, normally 58, got down to 55 plus your club discounts at the checkout in the coupon code. Just put in the club level seller if you're in the seller club, estate if you're in the estate club, or reserve if you're in the reserve or grand reserve club, which gets that down to an excellent price if you're in one of those level clubs. This is just a stellar, and I don't know if he's watching, but this has got to be in John Rodeo's card if he's watching. This is a John Rodeo wine right here if I haven't seen one. And that, it is absolutely amazing.
Well, I think we're going to slowly but surely tonight, and obviously in the shop, develop some following, because I have, at least in my customer base, like 3 people that go, when this wine comes out every year, make sure you send me a 6-pack, make sure you send me a case, because we don't get a lot.
Yep.
It's a very small production wine. It comes in little small 6-pack cases. But you talk about ageability. I mean, not just ageable reds from Spain or Rioja, just ageable anything in your cellar, guys. I mean, this is something that I would brown paper bag against anything that you would consider age-worthy, new or old world out there. And I would put Pepsi challenge, right? I mean, this is the Pepsi challenge against anything. And that's why I always love to present Spanish wines to people that, you're out there. I only drink New World, Barossa Valley, Mendoza, Napa. Hey, I love those wines too. But if you're just, you want to kind of get in that foot of the old world, I think Spain is the obvious segue because of price, quality, and the flavor profile. I mean, that's one thing I've always loved about Spain. So, man, this I may have said a few expletives when you were talking.
He did.
Hopefully that didn't come up
did,
because this wine was pretty darn delicious, and I don't think I used those words, but hopefully it didn't come up too hard. I hope I didn't have a hot mic. I guess
it was right there when you said it, though.
Did I have a hot mic? FCC. Hopefully it's after 9 o'clock.
After 9, we'll be here. It's 8:30. It's 8:30. So, that was
sweet.
That was a close call there.
Well, before we move on to the last wine, do we have any questions about any of the wines so far? I know we've had a few people tune in and tune out, but I guess we're about to go on to the last wine tonight, guys. As we pour that, please let us know any questions. Vanna Vines. We've had a few questions, but quiet tonight. I mean, I think
it
this
is quiet.
A little quiet tonight. But hey, I mean, when you can have a host like Victor, why he pretty much explains everything. I mean, when I had a question, I'm like, oh, he just mentioned. He covered that. So Victor's covering everything tonight. I love it. Well, guys, if there's no questions, I think Victor, should we move on to the grand wine tonight here? Yes. And Danny also is probably going to mention this. I want the cat out of the bag. We have 2 different vintages of this, so probably before we stop talking tonight, I'll get you to touch base on obviously this vintage and maybe a touch on the last vintage. That if somebody wants to have a little mini vertical in their cellar, the Loaded Grape can make that possible.
And we can. And I just noticed because TC here wasn't here early,
Uh-oh.
that I didn't update the quantities online. So
Are people trying to order truckloads of stuff?
yes, I noticed that we were already out of a couple of things. So if you tried to order something and it was missing, I've now updated the
let Danny, let Andy,
or
Vanavant.
put in the comments if there was something that you wanted and it said that you were out. We will definitely get it for you.
We checked inventory, so we will get this wine for you guys. So
Yeah,
anything
sorry,
that you want,
it's all updated now. Yeah, pour.
Yes. On to more important things.
Yeah, I knew. I almost ordered this when we were at Wine Bar George, but I was like, I'm gonna be drinking it on Monday. I can wait. So,
but the 16? Is it the 16 that you guys have?
16.
I have 12 bottles of the 15 in the shop. So it's not online. So if you order online, you're going to be ordering the 16.
And you got to keep that for yourself, man.
I know. Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed I might be able to sneak a bottle.
Okay, so 6 bottles are available.
6 bottles are available because I'm taking 6. But here's what we're doing. If you want one of the bottles of the 2015, you'll have to put it in the comments, and Vanavines will mark it down and let us know that that's what you want. But if not, if you're ordering from online, it'll be the 2016 that you'll be getting. So if you want the 2015, you have to let Vanavines know, and you can pick it up in the shop. There's only 12 of those bottles available. We have a little bit more inventory available on the 2016. So, but this wine was Victor was actually in our reserve club level last fall. That's why I have some 15s left. So we definitely love this wine. And now it's your turn to tell everybody why we love this wine.
So I mean, Baton is for us. Of the wines that we produce, our family's top wine that we produce. This is a wine that comes from this tiny little appellation about 2.5 hours northwest of Madrid called Toro. And Toro is one of Spain's, if not Spain's most historic red wine making regions, one of Spain's most historic red wine making regions. And one that's extremely important to our family because, like Rías Baixas, this was an appellation that Jorge discovered when it was totally kind of lost to the history books. To family library where we've got all our books. My dad probably has 200 books that are just Spanish history books. And in the middle of the 90s, he was reading about the history of Spanish wine. And also when you read the literature of Cervantes and Don Quixote and Luis Quevedo and Góngora, famous Spanish poets and authors from the 1600s. Sorry, I just got a strange text. That's odd. My bad. If you read this literature from back then, the only red wine that these authors mention is Toro. And if you look back through the primary source records, the Archbishop of Santiago de Compostela had vineyards in Toro, even though he was located in Galicia. And Toro in the Middle Ages was actually Spain's most important red winemaking region. And the medieval capital of Spain, called Valladolid, is located right here, which is right nearby Toro. And so it was the red wines that the kings and queens of Spain drank in the 1400s. These are the red wines that came with Columbus on his boat to them to the New World. So incredibly, incredibly historic. And in 1995, when Jorge first went to Toro, he basically discovered an appellation with 4 wineries and acres and acres and acres and acres and acres of ungrafted 120-year-old pre-phylloxera Tempranillo, which locally is called Tinta de Toro, because Tempranillo is a grape variety that actually is indigenous to Toro. So all of the Tempranillo in Rioja, all of the Tempranillo Ribera del Duero, all the Tempranillo La Mancha originally comes from Toro, where it's known as the red wine grape from Toro. And it took Jorge 2 years to convince the Aguirre family from Sierra Cantabria to start a winery with him in Toro. And finally, in 1998, they founded a winery called Numancia, which became an overnight spectacle. And then in 2006 was sold to LVMH. And after that, Jorge went and started his own winery, and the Aguirre family started their own winery, Tessa La Monja, which is a winery that we still represent today in the U.S. And at our winery, the flagship wine that he created was Vatan, which is a wine that's a single vineyard wine from this single vineyard that you're seeing here on the screen, which is a single vineyard planted in sand, as you can see, planted in 1900. So it's a 120-year-old single vineyard, huge, massive, gnarled vines planted on their original European roots that produce these, as you can see on the screen, these tiny little clusters of Tempranillo that fit literally in the palm of your hand. And Tempranillo that literally, I mean, the grapes look like blueberries. They don't look like grapes. They're tiny, tiny, tiny concentrated grapes. And a wine with the structure and the power and the fruit concentration of Vatan is a wine that spends only 6 days macerating on the skins because all that concentration is in the vineyard. It comes from the soil. Like I said, all sandy soil, dry, hot climate, high altitude, so you get high acidity as well. But very powerful structured wines that are like that because that's what the region produces naturally. This is not a winemaker's trick or something that we're trying to appeal to from a style point of view. This is what Toro produces, and the challenge with Toro is making wines like Vatan, which are powerful and structured, but also have a sense of elegance and balance to them. We were talking about the two vintages. I have in my glass a Coravin of the 2016 here. 2016 is definitely, I think, for most consumers and most customers that I've tasted with, the more popular vintage. I think it's kind of like it's riper and presents better now because it's kind of softer and easier to drink and better on the palate, but I think overall is more balanced. I personally love the 2015. The 2015 has a lot of kind of like harder structure, but it has a lift to the fruit and a purity to the fruit that I really, really love. Both have got really good press. The 2015 was 97 points from Jeb Dunnick. The 2016 has 95 points from a few different sources, so super highly rated. I think for people that like a more classic kind of, dry tannic structure wine, like a Bordeaux, I think pick up a couple of those last bottles of 2015. But for people that want something that they can drink now but also lay down, the 2016 is also fantastic. I mean, they're the two best vintages that we've produced, so you can't go wrong either way. I will say that most consumers and most customers that I've tasted with prefer the 2016. But I love this wine. I think it's one of the most unique wines we have in our portfolio. One of our top sales reps here in Massachusetts calls this wine the Tatooine wine because this vineyard looks like you're on Tatooine in Star Wars from the OG old school Star Wars movies because it's so sandy and high altitude. But
Right, we got a great price on this. It was on our shelves at $39. Got it marked down to 27 or 30. Sorry, 27. I said 30, not 27.
I'm taking
37
right now.
37. 37. So a couple bucks off. Plus, if you're in the wine club, you can get your wine club level discounts when you do the checkout on loadedgrape.com. Again, if you want to order the 2015, you have to do that through Tanya. I only have 12 bottles of that available. Anything ordered online will be the 2016. And man, that vineyard looks amazing. And this wine, I don't know. I mean, I think I needed the 2015 in front of me in order to be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
But I know how much I love the 2015 when we had it in the wine club.
Well,
So
I mean, this is always a wine that, again, I think every year when we actually get some in, we unfortunately convert more people because we run out more quickly. I mean, I think this is a wine that I think 10 of our sales reps in the state know about and sell the bulk amount of. But this is a wine. As Victor was showing the pictures, these are head trained vine guys. So for those of you that may be more familiar with, say, visiting California wine country, I always say when you're driving wherever in California, and you look over, the ones that are beautiful and that are like they're like have been planted on a digital grid, those are brand new within like 20, 30 years. When you see vineyards like this, these are vineyards that they used to plant back in the day, like the head trained vines. I mean, the old Spanish, Italian, French immigrants that were, as Victor mentioned, 5'6", 5'5" at most, these head trained vines. So they're not at ease of farming. Somebody like me that's 6'6" would I'd kill myself trying to farm these vines. But, it's the old school way. So whenever I see head trained vines, one, I always think how old they must be. And two, again, you mentioned California. When we talk about, this was planted in 1980 or 70, and that's old vine or whatever. This is 1900. 1900. I mean, well over a century ago. So again, I mean, to me, old vine is like between 40 to 80 years, but ancient vine is like 80 plus. These are ancient vine guys, and people always ask, TC, how long do vines last? I'm like, well, I mean, I'm sure there are vines out there that people are kind of keep going. I mean, I've heard of vines producing up to 170 plus years, but 120 plus years. I mean, Victor, I mean, the economics, I'm sure, aren't the best on this wine, but you guys,
that's what I was going to say.
it's a labor of love, I'm sure, because you guys need to take all of us, take advantage of all of us is what I'm trying to say tonight, guys, because this is a wine for everything. If you check all the boxes and the price you're going to pay for $37 before the discount,
before discounts,
I'm just gonna sit back and let that ruminate for a second. Yeah.
No,
Victor, you're about to say something, I think, about how we don't make money on this wine.
I was going to say that we make a little bit of money on this wine.
Yeah, we do make money on this wine, but it's like.
But like the big difference here is that the yields are just, again, the yields are stupid. I mean, this is like, I think the yields here are 0.6 tons to the acre.
Yeah.
And that's because the plants are healthy, but the problem here is not the yield per vine. The yield per vine is quite healthy. The plants are healthy and the plants are vigorous. Look how wide the spacing is. You know, these are 1,500 vines per hectare. In Rioja, you're used to seeing 5,000 vines per hectare. So forget about California. California could be 7,000 vines per hectare.
Yeah.
Here we have a seventh of that or a sixth of that. So I mean, that's the biggest problem with the economics here. It's not. I mean, the plants are healthy and the yields per plant are actually not that bad. You know, I mean, you walk through a vineyard here at harvest and there's 6-8 clusters on here, no problem whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, just like the yields for the vineyard are ridiculous. So I think this is a wine that we started making in 2012. So we're releasing the 17 this fall. So we're only on our 5th vintage. So, you know, I think if we were still in like the heyday of Robert Parker, you know, this would have been a wine that would have gotten like 98 points in its first vintage and we'd be world famous overnight. But we're building this a little bit more the old fashioned way. And I think more and more people are starting to recognize how spectacular this wine is. And it's really starting to move well. And we're really excited about it because it's building a little name for itself in its little corner of the wine world. So we're jazzed about it and one of our favorite wines. So.
And we will always, at the Loaded Grape, have this on the shelf at whatever vintages they're in, because this is cheers to that. It is one of the. This is the where I say if you were in a restaurant, you're probably going to be paying upwards of $70, $80, $90 a bottle, somewhere in there.
And that's a steal.
And now you're going to be able to get, and that is a steal for that price at a restaurant.
Yeah, you
but
get
to be able to take this home,
$80 at like Tampa, or you mentioned Orlando. If I get this bottle $80 Orlando, are you kidding me? Give me 2 bottles.
Yeah, it was over that.
Yeah.
It was over that at one part, George. But I will tell you that be able to take this home now for $37. If you're not in the club getting an additional discount, it's a steal for this wine.
I mean, think about it this way too. Like this is a wine that will literally age for 30, 40 years. I mean, because we have bottles of the original Numancia, which is the wine that we made from the 98 vintage that are young and they're 22 years old. And this is a wine that is very similar to the original Numancia, but I think with more elegance and more refined structure. And this is a wine that you have a case in your basement, you drink 2 bottles a year for the next 5 years and leave the next 6 for a wedding down the road or for an anniversary. I mean, what you're getting here for $37 is absolutely stupid. And this is obviously I talk a lot about Spanish wine, but people always say, oh, Spanish wine's a great value. And I'm like, oh, great. Like, here we go again. Like, you hear that and you say that and everyone thinks, oh, like, yeah, Spain makes really nice bottles of Garnacha that with a ladybug on the label for $7.99. And that's not the point. The point in Spain is that you can get this, which is like first growth Bordeaux quality, super second growth Bordeaux quality for $37 on the shelf. You can age it for 35 years if you want to. You can drink it now. That to me is where Spain represents the best value, is from like $30 to $50, where you can just get these literally world-class wines it's not inexpensive, but most people could afford this for a special occasion. And I think that's the most special part.
Drinking this right now, I'm thinking in my head that, just like TC said, there's other brands out there. People will go, oh, I'm going to drink this at 90, 100 because they know the brand.
Correct.
It would just be they'd be blown away with this at 37 and go, oh my
and
God.
that's what's happening.
Yeah, you take 3 bottles of this home for the price you were paying for that other brand, and I don't think the wine is as good at the $100 price.
Well, I'm just going to say, I like what Victor said, guys. Get a case. I mean, guys. I mean,
drink 2 bottles a year.
Hey, we're getting to that part of the year where the wallets are opening up. People are buying a little bit more wine, right? The holidays are coming up. You're going to give something. Even if you have someone in your family, in your group of people that drinks 3 bottles of wine a year, which that's unfortunate, but if they're going to wait that long and they're only going to drink wine when you come over, might as well give them a bottle of this, because guess what? When you give them a bottle of this, when you see them a year or 2 years down the road and they open, hey, we're going to drink that Bataan. You're like, okay, please. And as opposed to the whatever wine they picked up on CVS on the way home to get the whatever, and as Victor said, guys, I mean, Spain, great value, but guys, $30 to $60, you can't touch it in France. You can't Italy. Certainly California. I mean, nowhere near that.
I mean, we just did a beautiful Amarone, but it was $70.
Yeah, nowhere near that. And again, anywhere else in the New World, guys. I mean, and again, talk about the pedigree of the families, of the histories, the age of the vines. I mean, I know we could go on ad nauseum about this. We're keeping Victor from his foe at this point.
Yeah.
I think. It started with the Mo. The Mo made me do it. It was the sparkling, then the Mo, and then the Bataan is the cherry on the top. That's what it does.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, all these wines tonight were stellar. We're gonna probably have to have you back maybe in the spring. Would you do another show with us?
Absolutely. We'll talk to Angie and we can get some of those high-end whites for the spring. I think that'd be awesome.
That'd be wonderful.
Single vineyard Lacan, like you said, and we just did Brega, which maybe the next miniature Brega will be out by then. That's talking about old vines. I mean, that's another great wine, man. But
El Puntito would be a great one for this too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, guys, any last questions?
Yeah, any questions for Victor while we have him here before we let him go, and they'll do a quick run cap of the pricing and everything.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was an absolute pleasure and super fun. I love the format, way better than Instagram Live or anything like that.
Great. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying this, because this is what me and TC talk about, the format of the show, where a lot of our reps are so used to doing these Zoom calls, and it's like 12 people on a Zoom call, and you get to see everybody. This is a wine show. We talk about the wine. We educate people about wine. Yeah, we're drinking along, but at the end of the day, they have the chance to buy it at great pricing, and that's showing right now, because I'm seeing the orders come through. Kathy
and Hoda.
We're Kathy and Hoda.
On Monday night, baby.
I told TC we got to watch out, because at some point, now that we got this up on YouTube now and Facebook, these prices only stay for this week, and then we go back up to the normal prices. So people have to hop on it, and we laugh, because it's like, a bunch of orders tonight, and we get orders tomorrow. Get some late orders on the end of the week, and then we move on to the next show's wines, and a little different. Nobody's drinking along with us. So, but I think me and TC and having folks like you, we really explain what's in the bottle, and so they know whether they really want to try it or they think they'll like it, based on the descriptions and the recommendations. And I think folks have really grown to love our recommendations. We're not picking wines that are not good, so that makes life easy. The hard part is when you have 6 wines like this and you're on a wine budget. Which ones do you take home? Because they're all great.
Well, you add $50 to $100 to your wine budget that
That's
week.
what you got to do. That's what ends up happening,
yeah.
and I do see that happen. A lot of folks are saying, "Man, I'm spending so much money." But it's okay. We've started getting folks to start cellaring wine, Victor. I mean, that's something that
I also think it's also really important, because I think depending this period has been very challenging for a lot of wine companies, for sure. I mean, we're a company that traditionally sold 50% of its wine in restaurants, and thank God we're flat. You know what I mean? Like year to date, which is, we have our distributors to thank, we have all of our retail customers to thank for that. But like the worst part about this period for specialized wine companies like ours is that when people do go to wine shops, oftentimes they're going in, they're getting their bottle of KJ Chardonnay, and they're getting the F out of there.
Yeah.
Who's shopping? No one's shopping.
Yeah.
They're not talking to people at the store with their mask on and their gloves. They're not searching the shelves and pulling bottles. I'd love to go in wine shops and just sit there for 40 minutes. Everyone's like, "Can I help you?" No, it's like reading a book, right? And the challenge is that how do you connect with consumers, and how do you wine is an experimental product. You know, when people get their gin, they drink that gin. When people get their vodka, they drink that vodka almost till the day they die. But the challenge during COVID has been, how do you get consumers to experiment with new wines? And this is a fantastic format, and I absolutely love it. And it gives an opportunity for small family companies like ours to shine, and we really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you,
Victor. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I mean,
do you have any questions? Anybody come in with any questions for Victor?
I think that might.
No,
Yeah.
I think
That's it. All right, no questions for you tonight.
Yeah, Victor, we'll follow up with you. I mean, I think we had a great attendance tonight, but again, thank you so much for your time. Certainly you, your father, your family, everything, and just love your knowledge, you know, just of the product and the portfolio, and love to, you know, with Tryon and Loaded Grape and you, I mean, hopefully this trifecta thing will continue on, and who knows, maybe I'll definitely lose more hair.
Yeah, you won't have any more hair.
All my hair will be gone by that point. But we'll be talking about, remember when we had the Vatan 2015 during COVID, and we'll be drinking Vatan 2035 or whatever it might be. You know, so I look forward to it. Look forward to many more years with you guys. And again, thank you so much. And from Tryon, thank you so much for everything you guys do.
And next time when everybody's able to travel and start going out and doing the jobs they love, which is meeting accounts and talking about their wine, we look forward to hosting you at the Loaded Grape and maybe doing an in-person tasting with our folks.
I love that.
So,
awesome.
So cheers. We're going to let you go. Enjoy the rest of your night, Victor, and we'll do a quick little wrap up for the rest of everybody.
Thanks,
Victor. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let's do a quick little recap of everything that we went through tonight. We started the show off with a lovely Grand Reserva Cava. Vintage Cava. 2014 Cava.
48 months in the bottle. For those of you doing math, I think that's 4 years, right?
It's forever. It's forever. So 2014, we got this down to $20. What a great deal on that. Of course, if you're in the wine club, putting your level to get your discount. Then, you know what? He said it. Jorge was the first one to bring in.
It's got to be the first, right?
Got to be the first, and he was the first to bring in. Let me bring this over here. First to bring in the Albarino, the Lacana Albarino right here. Absolutely delicious. We, even without being prompted, never watched the show. He called it a porch pounder, and that's what it is. He said it, not us. That's what lets you know where it's at. This, again, normally on the shelf at $23, got it down to $20 a bottle. So what a great price on that. And then the deal of the night, the steal of the night. If you're sitting there going, "Hey, I'm a little on a budget, COVID, but get a couple bottles of this," you're gonna be thanking us. That is the Mo right here. This Monastrell, absolutely delicious of a wine.
Brand new item. We just brought that in, guys. Brand new to the market. None of these wines have any chain distribution, but in terms of any restaurant or even other retail shops, this is, I think this is the first tasting I've done with the Mo. So we're talking brand new wines here tonight, guys.
Then we went to the Sierra Cantarabra.
Sounds good.
There, it sounds close enough, right? I'm getting my Spanish here.
Right here from Rioja, a little Crianza.
Crianza.
The pronunciation, that's why we love Victor. Because the guy,
he did it every time.
He went from just articulate English to articulate Spanish, and that's what we have.
Well, I got a fat tongue. I can't do it.
I can't
do it. Anyway,
made me do it.
I know you're going to sit there and say, Carenza, $21. I will tell you to drink this, and I would even put it up against some Grand Reservas that we've drank in the shop. That's how good that Carenza is. And then let's go, staying in Rioja, let's go to a single vineyard, which is not very...
Yeah, the first single vineyard from Rioja, guys, San Vicente. this is the quintessential region of all of Spain. Everyone knows about Rioja. Yeah. Guys, if you need a reserve wine to drink tomorrow, this is it. Yeah. But if you need something to age, I'm going to say it. The next two wines are certainly ageable, but this is a wine, guys, where they've already aged it for 5, almost 6 years for you. again, I hope I wasn't too hot, Mike, when I first drank it, because this wine is drinking fantastically right now.
Yeah, he
guys.
went fudge.
Yeah, I went fudge. But
I was like, that's hot.
Yeah, absolutely. So the San Vicente guys, don't make me only sell this wine to 3 accounts. I mean, this is a wine that almost. I mean,
I can tell you right now, bottles have been sold to this wine.
More homes
I saw some orders. Bottles have been sold to this wine. I know you're sitting there going, "Ooh, 55." But if you trust the
if
you went to a restaurant and paid $12 a glass, you wouldn't be able to get that for $12 a glass, because it'd be on somebody's menu for $25 for 3 ounces.
Well, Van of Wine's usually our unsolicited opinion.
I was getting ready to say, let me taste one more time.
Yes, just let
her in.
Scotia
and Van of Vines will be on camera next week, so get ready for that.
Yes.
She'll be on camera. It's just going to be me and TC. So as she gets a little taste again, let me also bring it up, because ladies, grab your ladies, tune in, get together, because we're doing right here Virtual Vine rosés for the fall.
Yes,
fall rosé.
Yes, fall rosés, baby.
Yes, it's going to be a fun show. We got 5 rosés lined up, and we'll be giving away. Was that a 3-liter bottle?
Yes, 1.5 liter. But we don't. I mean, it was only for promotional purposes. I mean, guys, we don't actually need to sell that bottle. So again,
I won't be selling it, but we'll be giving it away.
The Loaded Grape will be one of only a few places in the entire triad that I know of that probably even was had the ability to be able to get that. So tune in, guys. The Houchard. Oh my god!
And that was all thanks to our good friend, right? Because it wasn't that isn't that also represented by
David Milligan?
Dave Milligan. Dave Milligan, who also is a good friend with Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need to get I got to get my good friends going. I wasn't sure if it was Christoph.
There's so many wine folks.
Wine folks out there for us, but he was able to get us a 1.5 liter bottle to give away for our fall rosé tasting. So tune in next Monday night, 7:30, either on your YouTube channel, we'll go live, or on Facebook Live. And you're not going to want to miss these rosés, because we got some lovely rosés for you. It's going to be a fun show.
And the hats off campaign. Are we still
in the hats off campaign?
Are we still in there?
Oh, you know what, TC?
So guys, if you get 6 bottles tonight and you're already like there, frankly, let's just go ahead and say that you're going to get a few bottles tonight.
Go ahead and get yourself a hat in the Hats Off the campaign. Tanya, now, what did you think?
It's worth the price of admission. It's delicious.
What was So if we had to twist your arm, let's go 2 wines, because we did red and white.
Because I liked all of these so much. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm gonna have a hard time picking. The Mo, delicious. The Rioja, delicious. Of course, I love the Goleta. That's like one of my absolute faves. So good. The Porch Pounder one, obviously, but I tend to like in the Spanish more the reds, so that's just me.
Vanna's basically saying she's taking at least one of everything.
Pretty much. And
Vatan has always been one of my faves.
And she said it. That Vatan.
And it's a secret, guys. I mean, not a lot of people know about it. These guys did it in that reserve club, and kudos to these guys for, going, hey, let's take a flyer on an unknown. But hey, they know where the butter's bred. 1900 or the year 1900 vineyard planted Tempranillo from some of the oldest Tempranillo cuttings. Fantastic, guys. So anyway,
so there you are, right there, down to 37 plus your club discounts. You go right now, order on loadedgrape.com. TC, I know it's going to be a toss up between the last two for you. I know.
I mean, I love the San Vicente. I think the San Vicente to me has an extra level of sophistication. I mean, San Vicente to me is like you go to Manhattan, you're going to spend a few extra bucks that week. The wife, she brought the fancy dress, she brought the nice suit. And even though our salaries are here, we're gonna live like up here for the weekend. That's San Vicente.
Yeah.
The Veytan to me is like you're just classy. You don't even know about it. I mean, the Veytan is like, wow, you have no makeup on and you're that beautiful. That's Veytan. Veytan is just like gorgeous, and here I am, and just love me. And everyone does. I mean, it is a crowd. I mean, if there ever was a crowd pleasing red that has that iron fist velvet glove analogy like we talked about, this is it, guys. I mean, from barbecue to leftovers to red sauce. I mean, and ageability. I don't know if I can say enough about the Veytan. I mean, it is a stupid good wine, and for $37 tonight, guys, if you're not getting at least one bottle. I'm gonna shame on you if you don't get at least one bottle of the Veytan tonight, guys. So.
Yeah, definitely. If you're wanting the 2015 that we have in the shop, I only have 12 bottles. You're gonna have to let Vanna Vines know about that.
We have a couple of those.
All right, so
spoken for.
So if you already got the 15, we got some 16.
We got some 16. You can add it into the
Yeah.
loadedgrape.com. That's why it actually says there 2016 on it, because I need to make sure that I was what I was grabbing. So thank you so much for tuning in. Wanted to you guys have been amazing.
We've had a long
awesome.
show. This is one of our longest shows. We still have some people tuning in.
Yeah,
so thank you guys so much for sticking with us.
6 wines and having a guest, sometimes it does make it a little difficult to not make it a long show. But thank you so much for tuning in.
We're gonna go finish up this wine now.
Yes, we might have a little bit in the shop tomorrow if you're local and you're coming by. All these wines will be available for pickup. Starting on Wednesday after 4 when we open up, Wednesday after 4 for pickup. Obviously, if we're shipping, it'll be out probably Thursday for you. If you're ordering and we need to ship it to you, we can ship it to you on Thursday. So thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week, Monday, 7:30, Rosés for fall. And have a wonderful night.
Good night, everybody.